Order and let us start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And we will note for the record that all board members are present and welcome back, Ms. Chappelle.
Thank you. Can I thank you all for excusing my absence? My surgery and recovery was all great, and I appreciate your patience and allowing me to be absent, but I was here in spirit.
It's good to have you back. And good morning, all. We'll go right into our agenda. And I move to approve the minutes from the June 11th, 2024 board meeting.
Oh, for purposes of the motion, I'll second.
Second.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Second by Mr.
There we
McCaffrey.
go.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll be abstaining because I wasn't
And
here.
for the record, Ms. Chappelle abstains because she was excused from that meeting. And we have a series of directives, and I'm going to recognize Director Pilati to just give us a little insight on this.
So you do have 7 directives that we'll be acknowledging today. Majority of them deal with statewide petitions that staff had to work on, whether it was the minor party petition, minor party candidate, or redistricting rules with that. But 3 things I do want to point out is letter A, election administration readiness preparedness, and B, which is election security preparedness. These are directives that Secretary LaRose sent out, gave us some guidance on some things we should be doing, but he also then came with funding for each of those. So they're grant applications that we have Deputy Director Keller and I signed, turned down. Now we have to just turn in our funding plan for approval. The election administration readiness, which deals primarily with poll worker functions, training, and supplies. That's about $109,000 that we got awarded in Cuyahoga. And for election security, which really a lot of it is cybersecurity, physical security, we got $66,000 assigned to us. So we'll get that list completed and turned in by July 31st, which I believe is the deadline. And then also just want to draw your attention to Directive F, which is statewide mailing of absentees. As happens every even year, Secretary of State will be sending out vote by mail applications to all registered voters in the state of Ohio. It typically happens around Labor Day. So it's good that he was able to secure the funding and do that again. That really is helpful in that that's the one time when unsolicited applications can go out to voters and they, without them having to request. So we'll be focusing voter education on that now, but closer to the mailing to let people know it is real. It's not AI, fake, any of that, and to go ahead and utilize that next to the application. We like it too because it has our barcode on it, and that way when it comes back, we can process quickly, and it's actually more accurate because it takes away some of the manual entry. So that was the main highlights I wanted to hit. If there's any questions, please let me know.
I just have a couple of questions. So we, there were a lot of deadlines identified. Yesterday was the deadline for us to complete our task for that on F for our initial mail, for that initial mailing from the secretaries. So I'm assuming we met all of the deadlines that we were supposed to. Just on the initial mailing for from the Secretary of State, that doesn't preclude voters from still calling us and requesting their applications, correct?
That's actually correct.
So they can still do that.
So
And we'll still process them.
right, so as real life example, we have about 15,000 vote by mail applications currently in-house from people who have submitted, about 900 UOCAVA applications that have come in, and individuals can definitely still go to our website, print one out, go to the library, grab one, or other places and turn that in. What we ask is it is not inappropriate to submit 2 applications. However, it doesn't get you a ballot any faster because we cannot mail to the opening of absentee. And actually, when we start getting high volumes of duplicates, we don't know it's duplicates until we process it. So then what it does is it takes away from us really getting through those initial applications. But yes,
They can still request.
They can still request. We will send it to them. They can print it out and we will process it.
Okay, just on B, just what is the Marks radio? We have to train all our staff on the Marks radio. What is
Yeah.
what's the Marks?
Sure.
I mean, I just never,
We got
Yeah.
oh, did you? So I wasn't able to see.
So,
Yeah, what's the Marks radio?
The Marks radio is basically a walkie-talkie,
Yeah,
but
it's
what,
an acronym for something, I'm assuming.
yes, and I don't know what it is off
It's
the
all
top of my
right,
head.
okay.
But what that walkie-talkie, what the uniqueness of it is the network that it operates on. So if, say, all communication were to go down, so towers and all of that, these Marks radio, you can still communicate through that. So, Secretary of State is providing one radio for every county, and I think paying the first 2 years of service. And so that's nice. What we will be doing is actually talking with county emergency management. They have a, grouping of, they have about, I think, 36 Marks radios on hand that they have. And so they're gonna be able also to loan some out to us. So we'll have one in this building, we'll put one in Alley, we'll put one at the command center. So this way, if things were to go down, so we can actually communicate on different channels, we can communicate with Secretary of State's office, we can communicate internally in the network, we can communicate with other boards of elections. So
Just a couple others, on this same, cybersecurity, directive. Did we participate in the VDP, the Vulnerability Disclosure Program?
Peter, can you help me out on that? Do you know EDP? Anyone?
Boards of elections are encouraged to enroll in a free program for, vulnerability information identified potentially. So just wondering if we did, it's no cost to us to do it. And normally we do participate in everything that's offered for free.
That's not the class that you're.
That's what I'm wondering, that's the class.
Yeah.
Is that what's coming up that we are all signing up to do?
That's what I'm thinking, that's
Right.
not a definitive answer. but that could be.
But I will get you
Just
an answer on that.
wondering about that.
But this, and if I could, just to stay in that lane, the Secretary of State's office has, through CISA has reserved the afternoon of the 15th.
Okay,
So we'll do that, we'll just have to finalize the time for that,
all right, so you'll send us something.
most definitely. And that'll be virtual,
great.
so you'll be able to do that from wherever you happen to be.
And then just my last question is, on the registration audit dashboard requirement. Now we are required to access a registration audit dashboard once a week and take action. This is on the,
So,
voter registration integrity program.
Yes.
Just curious about
so this is.
how often we do that. I mean, it's great to have all these extra requirements. I just want to make sure we get it.
So what this pertains to the upcoming January 25 rollout of the Data Act that was passed last
This is
year.
in C, by the way. It is the Directive 2024-11, so.
So part of that Data Act is that basically the Secretary of State's office is gonna be the kind of the official repository. They already have a statewide voter registration database. And so there's gonna be more information that boards will be funneling to him on a regular basis, different data fields that will go to him that the public then can consume. On the dashboard internally for us, what this will do is, as we enter in registration cards, if there happens to be an error, if we put in a, say, an address field, a field that's not acceptable, maybe Boulevard needs to be abbreviated a certain way, we do it wrong, it's gonna flag it. If we put in a date of birth, that could potentially be an error, meaning that the person would be, very senior, say like 120 years old, it'll flag, take a look at this, might be like too old. If we put a registration in and a date of birth and we put someone who's under the age of 17, it'll flag it. So it's kind of a quality assurance dashboard for us to see where do we have some, do we do a data entry errors basically? Or is the information correct from a card, but it can't be possible data. That we go ahead and we correct that. So we need to do that on a weekly basis. Registration will do that. We look at stuff on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm sure that this is for other counties as well that don't do some of the vetting and the checking, double checking we do.
Yeah, what we have found as we're all starting now to work in this, is that even though we're the largest of the large, our numbers are like the smallest, because we have so many internal quality assurance reports that we run on a regular basis to keep it. So what this is doing is kind of taking some stuff, really a lot of stuff we already do, and push it on to all 88 counties. Now, again, there are some things that our stuff doesn't flag if we put someone in and it says that they're 150 years old, so that it will be beneficial in that regard. But that's really what this is. It's getting the whole state in line on uniform and clean data.
Okay. I have just one general question, maybe for Mark and for Tony, that doesn't relate to the directives, if I could. Shoot, in terms of the ruling that was just issued about the disability voters being able to allow whoever is assisting them in delivering their ballots. I understand that, the Secretary of State may be appealing that ruling, or somebody's appealing that. Is it, can you give us an update on that? And I just wonder what we're doing, or are we in pause until we get a final legal conclusion, or is that decision going to affect in any way how we're preparing? Can you just give us an update on where we are, given where that litigation stands?
Sure. So the district court judge ruled that certain portions of the revised code as applied to disabled voters are in violation of the supremacy clause by way of the Voting Rights Act, that provides that any disabled voter may obtain the assistance of anyone of their choice in casting their ballot, essentially, whereas the state code limits the people that can return a ballot on behalf of a voter to certain limited family members.
Is this something too that is also right for executive session, or not necessarily?
Well, this is a public ruling, so I mean.
It's potential, I mean, yeah, I can give you a rundown, I can give you an update in executive session or here.
Oh, yeah, no, but this is a
they're
public,
really-
this is a public decision, this is a public, the decision itself is public record, so.
I can just give you the facts, and not an opinion.
Okay.
The Secretary of State and the Ohio Attorney General were taking the lead on defending the state statute, and they are evaluating the decision from my understanding and deciding what to do with regards to an appeal. I believe they have 30 days when to decide whether to enter a notice of appeal. We'll wait to see what's going on during that time frame. In the meantime, I would expect the Secretary of State to issue an advisory to the boards throughout the state, or at least in the northern half of the state within the territory of the district court. And we'll see what guidance the Secretary of State and its counsel has for us. But right now, everybody's kind of digesting the decision and trying to figure out next steps. So I don't have any guidance for you at this point.
Yeah, no. I just wondered if, where we were in terms of the litigation. I did hear something about a potential appeal. I did not read the decision, but understand based on what you're saying, it's based on a preemption or a federal preemption argument.
Correct.
Federal law trumps the state law that prohibits and limits disabled voters, persons of assistance.
Correct. Yep. The judge did not reach the ABA, the vagueness argument, or the Rehabilitation Act claims.
So is it the federal, is this under HABA? Was that a HABA provision, or what provision?
Voting Rights Act, 208 of the Voting Rights Act.
Okay.
Yeah, it's and I can get into it more in the executive session. But
And to your point, I mean, we do normally get from the Secretary of State after every kind of litigation or court decision, some sort of advisory or guidance, so we'll probably get that, and that would inform how we respond, but yeah, I mean, it's a real concern, and you know, it's a big issue for disabled voters, so I just wanna make sure we are attuned, and I know we're keeping abreast of what's happening, because we have a short period of time.
correct, yeah.
For the election. So,
Want to administer it in accordance with the law.
yeah, thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, having had that conversation, I move to acknowledge Secretary of State directives, all inclusive, A through G.
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Chappelle, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And on to item number 3, we'll have a status update by Director Dever of County Public Works. I'm going to ask Director Pilati to do this up for us.
Yes, so, we have Director of Public Works, Mike Dever here, if you want to come up there, Mike. The county board of elections worked with Director Dever, his team, and county law, and other county agencies on the 1801 Superior Avenue, building space, new space for board of elections. As we all know, it was definitely a journey, a good journey. And we got where county council did approve a lease agreement with ICP, building owner and landlord. And so that was a major hurdle to get. And now there's a series of additional hurdles that we need to work through to actually get into the space. And so we being Board of Elections with Public Works, County IT and other entities working with regular meetings to prepare and figure out how to get this till we land at a point of January 2025. Board of Elections moving into that building. And so I been able to give some high level type questions and answers as questions, the things that have come my way. I invited Director Dever to come today so he can better explain this process. He is really the project manager for this project, and then we'll be able to answer the various questions that you may have regarding our move.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Mr. Dever. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Mike Dever, Director of Public Works with Cuyahoga County. Thanks for inviting me back to talk about this project. As Executive Director Pilati had noted, the significant hurdle of getting this legislation passed and agreement in place has been, we reached that goal, and now we're in a sprint. Trying to meet a deadline of this coming January to try and get you folks and most of this building into that facility by January and February 1st, I think actually is the hard date. So I have a very brief presentation in front of you. So if we could, we'll just go through that. Work completed to date, if I can go to there it is. So, completed to date was the due diligence, the public access, parking, ADA access. We are going to be meeting the universal design standards the county has adopted. Building functionality for the existing operations, space planning. We've been going back and forth as Director Pilati has pointed out. We've had multiple meetings talking about how the space is going to be utilized, moving things around. We went through an initial space planning phase, earlier in the year, and it's continued to evolve as we've been looking closer at the plans as they've been getting more succinct and in place. So there has been some adjustments here and there, but it's working out fairly well. The voter queuing for early in-person voting, we've addressed that, and we think we have a pretty good handle on how that will function into the future. And then also the garage rehabilitation and access, and very much aware that in the garage itself, there is space in there, air conditioned, the appropriate environmental controls for the mail-in ballot procedure, which is going to be coming over from the Halley warehouse. I do have the plans, but in just an abundance of caution, we're not going to be sharing the plans in public because there is some sensitive areas within the space. So we thought it was in the best interest of all not to be putting that out. We've got the BOE's buy-in. how the space is going to be laid out. We're still working with the Health and Human Service agencies and how that space is going to be worked out. There's some slight tweaks taking place and that hasn't been completed yet, but our hope was to do most of this build out, including the Health and Human Services, which is on floors 2 and 3, to try and get most of this build out completed between now and January, so that when the EOE has moved into the space, that you don't have construction taking place on those upper floors. So not disrupt the board's just daily functions and work process. The board approval, we've got the lease negotiation, so everything is in place. We do still have various items to go through to get approvals through Board of Control and Council for purchasing of equipment and other things, but we feel like we're at a pretty good pace to do that. Can you go to the next slide?
But one question, can I just?
Sure.
I thought the lease was executed. Are there still lease negotiations?
No, it's executed, fully executed.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Our project partners and coordination, obviously the county agencies, yourselves, the Board of Elections, Health and Human Services, the Department of Public Works, our IT department working in conjunction with the board's IT department, and then also the Sheriff's Department and what their presence will be in the facility and the security of the facility. The landlord, ICP, industrial, commercial partners, I believe that, I'm sorry if I got that, it's industrial commercial construction, sorry. They have a design team, HSB and NEF for the design work. HSB is doing the interior design work and NEF is doing the site work, the parking lot improvements. I'm happy to say that we have, those plans have now been submitted to the city for permit. So we're anticipating we will get permit in hand by mid-August and we'll be in full construction by that time. Ram Construction will be doing a majority of the construction on the garage space, and then additional contractors are to be added as we continue to move through this process.
Mike, if I can, sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
So I don't want to say the dreaded S word, the snow, but we aren't going to have any impacts. All the outside construction will be done well in advance of any snow hitting bad inclement weather.
That's important. Typically, asphalt plants typically close by Thanksgiving. And we always run up to that time space. I've seen snow fly as soon as the Halloween period.
Yeah.
So we anticipate to get the outdoor construction completed and in place so that it is fully operational for the January timeframe that you move in.
Thank you.
So they are moving very quickly, and that was what they started working on, actually, the parking lot improvements before the lease was fully executed. So a good faith effort by them to at least get started early. Next is two of our project support teams that work specifically for the Department of Public Works. It's Hill International, a gentleman by the name of Matt Pollock is very much involved in the project as one of our project, as part of our project management team. They are actually on a call as we speak right now with ICP. There's a weekly call to just go over various items. And then tomorrow we actually have our call with Tony and others to just talk about where the project is. So that the intent is, you know, there has to be a lot of communication here as we're going along, because of missing a week or whatnot, you know, can cause trouble anywhere in the schedule. Right now, we have out on the street too an RFQ for a county relocation contractor, and they are going to assist us in ultimately helping to pack everything up here within the building, get everybody organized so we can pretty much move this operations. It's a pretty in-depth exercise. So we hope to have that vendor on by, I'm hopeful, by mid-August. It would be an item we believe is going to go through our Board of Control. So as many of you know, council goes on recess during the month of August. So that does have somewhat of an impact on things, but the value of that contract is under $500,000. So we feel like we'll have that team on board and then they'll start almost immediately on organizing. So you can expect that there will be meetings forthcoming in regards to the relocation effort and getting people organized.
Just a question maybe for Tony here, so it's a big Herculean effort to pack up all the stuff. How does that impact our operating and administering the election? What's the timing? I mean, that's a big job and possibly disruptive, so have we thought through what the timing is gonna be in terms of our trying to do the election and you know, what's that gonna look like, or do we know yet?
If I could, Tony, I would just say that we are here to try and make this as seamless as possible. And that is the intent of this relocation. So we're gonna have to work on days that, you know, you don't have election business. And I know everything is all about elections now through November. But we're gonna have to, you know, thread this needle somehow and try and figure out how to get people organized. I would say, this is a great opportunity for individual offices and people to start consolidating a lot of their information, things that possibly they don't need anymore, is to start thinking that through, of things that maybe that they've got a lot of paper and stuff. But we will work closely with Tony, specifically this vendor, as soon as they come on, we'll start organizing that so it's a seamless process.
Okay, just want some sensitivity around that.
No, 100%, and this is a new adventure for us, because we haven't engaged in that, so I am thankful that they are bringing in a firm who specializes in this, and Gallagher and I are running lead on everything pretty much, except for Robin with the IT stuff, because I just don't speak that language, but, so, you know, what I look forward to is engaging in these meetings and making sure that they understand that really, there's only so much we can do until we get around Thanksgiving or so, and that there's gonna be different departments that will be able to do different things at different times because where they are. And so we will make it work, and one thing that we did do is that when we got the carpeting put in, like on the second floor, well, just throughout the building, people had to start doing some of that, clearing out their desk and clearing out stuff, and this document that I've had for 47 years, didn't know I had it, put it away, so.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't mean that they don't start to reaccumulate, but we have gone through some of that process, which was helpful and didn't know it was gonna be linked, but.
An initial purge, and I see
Yeah.
the timeline there is kind of helpful related to your question.
Right. It's important to note that, you know, there will be this cleanup period, and fortunately enough, there's many people on my staff that went through in 2014, the county moved into the county headquarters building of multiple agencies.
Yeah.
So we have some decent experience with how this process should play out. And hopefully it's not gonna be too painful, but
Moving is always a challenge.
it sure is, and it's stressful for everybody. So we're conscious of that, and we're gonna try and make it as easy as possible.
Just maybe add, and you might hit on this, but I think in this realm, part of this process is the actual furniture. And so there are some things that are moving from this building, but the landlord is providing a portion. Director Dever is getting the other stuff, so meaning that when we go to move, it's not gonna be moving, we're not going to 100% vacate this building and that every desk that's here is going and every
Right.
chair, which assumption is gonna be helpful, you know, in the timeline of that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, if they're an experienced realtor, I moved a long time ago, our firm moved to buildings, and it was, the contractor was excellent because they had special bins and color coded, you, Board of Elections can appreciate the color coded this and tags and things that, to make sure things didn't get lost, so it sounds like there'll be some of that really good.
An important piece too is the IT is having things from the shutdown to the startup. You know, it was Friday, we shut things down, and on Monday, they were able to turn things back on. So that's how seamless we're trying to make it, that there will be a couple of long weekends where we're probably gonna make some moves, but mindful that you do have early voting going on during weekends too, so we gotta just work that out. Okay, So just up here is in regards to upcoming project milestones. So there's we just wanted to put some things on paper to start identifying. So as Tony had noted, we have been meeting and we're coming up with a schedule to try and keep track of everything. A few of these items, like the one towards the backside there, the BOE relocation, it says just before Christmas. You know, that's our hope, is to get it done around that time. But we have that little bit of float then to get us into January and whatnot. But so multitude of other dates and what that are part of that. The IT item now looks like it's going to be a critical path item, that getting the procurement of all of the appropriate IT material and to be able to have it installed and up and running in time is that's one of our big challenges right now, and it's kind of moved to the forefront of making sure that we're able to procure everything and have it in place by then. So outside of that, there is other meetings going on in regards to security of the building, how it will be set up, how it will function, you know, what from the sheriff's office needs to be available, or protective services to make sure you have the adequate security in the building. You know, so those are still in discussion here, and the primary entrance will be that back entrance off of the parking lot itself. So we're still working through some of those details, but I think we'll be in good shape.
In terms of security, so the security, which obviously is key for us, the physical security as well as the cyber security, but for the physical security, you guys the county is going to assume all the costs for all the physical security pieces we need, is that correct?
We're working together on that right now. It's a county building.
Right.
And it's important to make sure it's secure. There will be other county functions in the building too. So we're working together to try and, I don't want to say 100% that the security is all borne by the county. I'm assuming, is it today?
Who else would it be borne by?
Is it today borne by the county? I would, is it?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
the county building, so I mean, I don't understand, what are you saying? I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
However it is functioning today, that's how I see it moving into the future. So if the county is, I'm sorry, I don't have a clear understanding of, you know, how the funding is for the security of the building, you know, for protective services to be here, right?
Right. Yeah, well, so I understand that county security is important. We have a heightened security concerns and interest as the Board of Elections. So I get there's county security and there's Board of Elections security. We've got the sheriff there, that's great. But in terms of our access and making sure we're set up with access cards and all of the cameras that we require, that's not on our dime. That's not, as my understanding, that's not how it works. That's not how it's ever worked. And I just want to be, you know, really sure that we have a commitment from the county that, I guess I don't really understand your answer. It is a county building. I'm not sure why we would be paying for security. And the way that we pay is interesting anyway, because it's really county money.
Yeah.
So that's why I really don't understand your answer.
Sure,
I don't
my
mean to
answer.
put you on the spot.
Sure,
here,
no, my answer to it is, this is gonna have state-of-the-art security. We are looking at cameras pretty much just about everywhere, access control cards,
Okay.
everything of that nature is part of this overall.
Could be a real big cost, but I just want to be sure
Right.
that it doesn't come back and then
We have requirements on.
we have very
She makes a
specific,
good point about that.
yeah, we have very
do.
specific requirements, so
That's
we
right.
need to make sure. Here's maybe an overarching question that maybe you guys can talk about and think about. Since we have an executed lease, do we have a sublease? And it may be important for us to have a sublease between the county and the Board of Elections. I don't know that we've ever had one for any of the buildings, but because this is so intricate, the requirements, it's great that you're going through them, but maybe it makes sense, I just throwing it out there, that we have a sublease so that each party's real clear on, you know, what it is that we're doing and what it is that we can expect the county will be doing. And, you know, I mean, you guys have done a lot, this is all great. I'm just wondering if it makes sense. We have critical path, we have timelines, we have, things that we've talked about. Maybe it's just incorporating what's already in your plan that you guys have been talking about in your meetings, but really memorializing it so everybody's clear. Just a thought, I don't know.
I think, I would say the county law department and the prosecutor's office maybe talk that through.
Okay, that
That's
sounds
all right.
good. Yeah,
But we're committed and the county executive is committed to make this state-of-the-art facility.
there's a cost that comes along with that, and we just wanna make sure
Yep.
we aren't in a position down the line where we have to be bartering or compromising something else or something gets scaled back, because we can't have anything scaled back from a voting elections administrative perspective. I know, this is just me, I know my colleagues probably have similar or different views maybe, but we can't afford for there to be any more changes to what the plan is. So it may be helpful to have it memorialized in a sublease, or somehow we are just really sure on the security especially, that we're real clear. Okay, thank you, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you,
No,
but
it's
this
a good question, because I would assume, director and deputy director also consulted on the security plan,
Oh,
because
surely.
obviously part of that is security for personnel and for voters and for us, but it's also securing the ballots and the integrity of the election, and, we have the camera on the drop box, so that's very important. These are requirements we have outside of, I think, even the norm, but I think as long as we're all at the table together, we can make sure that, obviously, we don't want anything skipped.
Yeah, and Tony and I, or Deputy Director Calvin and I, we are participating in those.
Okay.
Mike can attest, we're not shy, we're vocal. And, but, making sure people understand that there's regular standards, and then there's Secretary of State enhanced standards, Department of Homeland Security enhanced
Right.
standards, things that we have to live by. And that's working a lot too with the county IT department.
Yeah,
Kind of has responsibility over access codes, cameras, and those types of things. Mike's staff may install cabling and stuff, but the actual cameras and I would say some of the brains of those types of systems, the software and that. So we are making sure that we're communicating and getting that to them.
is that in a written plan? Is there security in some sort of written plan?
There's plan sheets for where every camera is gonna go, and swipe card access, all of that is within the overall document been submitted to the city for
Okay.
review.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so that's pretty much it, and I'm assuming probably will come back in the near future again, just kind of giving you regular updates to how the project is going, and we welcome that.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. One thing we've had good discussions on this project, as we should, but since we do have a few agencies in there, one thing I know we've always been concerned about is the public being able to clearly identify that this is the Board of Elections. This is, the primary use of this building. This is where they're gonna come to for early voting or for whatever their, candidate services, whatever the needs are. So signage is not something we kind of touched on, but not really. I just wanna make sure it's very clear.
Yeah, signage and wayfinding throughout the building are an important component of this.
Yes.
We have not gotten into the
Okay.
nuts and bolts of that yet, but I am anticipating we're gonna do that shortly. It'll probably be on tomorrow's meeting's agenda.
Okay,
But it's important. I would say, for this January, most likely we'll have some temporary signage, placed as the BOE moves in. But we are working to make sure we've got adequate signage throughout the end. So it's very clear that
Yes.
the Board of Elections is within this building, so.
okay, very
That's yet
good.
to come.
It's the
Yeah.
concept really was not that the Board of Elections is within the building, the concept was this is the Board of Elections building, so
Right. That's how
we
people are.
just my concern is we keep migrating from that general principle, even with the understanding that obviously there will be county agencies or a couple kind of HHS being the biggest one. But I just want us to, that's kind of how we are expecting to be billing it to the county. That's kind of what was promised. Every time I hear the Board of Elections is within the building, I cringe.
Yeah.
Because that's not how it was built. That's not how we've been billing it to the voters, and really, we need it to be our building. So I know,
Well,
Shared.
we're the highest public use in the
Yeah.
building and the largest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And we've
agree,
been
so.
clear that we're the,
Yeah.
the lead on that, and it's our building,
Yeah.
whoever else is in there, and that the building is secured to our specification.
Yeah.
And we
So-
be clear, yeah.
So on the point, the signage is yet to come, okay? So I'm sure
Yeah.
we're gonna have,
Okay.
more discussion on that.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Put it on your radar.
Mr. McCaffrey.
We thank you for coming today and making a presentation. My comment is, it's my understanding that the lease requires the building owner to pay prevailing wage to the craftsmen and women. And what is the Department of Public Works doing to ensure compliance with prevailing wage laws?
Well, we'll make sure we have a prevailing wage coordinator that will be monitoring those activities to make sure it's done. They have not selected, many of the interior contractors yet because they're gonna put smaller packages together. So we anticipate since the plans are done now, they will solicit from, we did get a list of contractors that they would be looking at, and I would say that it's a very good cross-section of contractors throughout Northeast Ohio. I think the Cleveland Building Trades, in fact, would be happy to see many of the contractors on that list. So it'll be a competitive process because, like I said, the plans have just been completed.
Thank you.
Just a couple to go back to so HHS is gonna be the primary agency in the building, is that, other than us, right? Is that,
That's correct.
so you did indicate, and this is some solace, that their construction on the second and third floor is gonna be complete before we start getting in there, is that?
Our intent was to get as much of that heavy construction done. I mean, I'm hopeful to get walls up and things like that. Maybe interior office work may need to be done, but I'm trying to get the heaviest work.
The basic build out will be done before we.
That's my goal, and ICP is anxious to do that also, rather than mobilizing twice to bring contractors into the building. So
Is that building on the dime of the landlord?
the improvements,
Yeah.
yeah, there's an allowance within the contract
That's
for
okay.
them to do improvements. to
Is
the
it a
building.
triple net lease?
Yes,
Okay, so, I mean, that would be a concern to us to make sure that so we're sort of, I heard you say that in your presentation, the construction on second and third is probably gonna be done. I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but that's important, I think, to us to make sure when we come over there, we don't have a lot of other activity going, that most of that work is gonna be done.
yeah, the hope is, we would like to be able to get help in the Health and Human Service agencies within the building too. We do not pay rent for them to be in the building until they are in the building.
Right.
Okay, so it behooves the landlord
To
to
get
get
it
much
done.
work done. So we can start collecting rent.
So when will we move beyond the hope and the goals to really a definitive, yes, we can count on this? Will that be at your next update?
Maybe that would be
Okay.
more appropriate time.
Just on HHS too, so I think the last time you were here, or last time we were briefed on the issue, there was some discussion about HHS consolidating. So has that been done? Because again, we don't want our expectation to be that the HHS number of folks that are gonna be building is X. And then, oh, but the consolidation's not complete now, and now we have extra people. Has that consolidation been done, and do we know about how many people are gonna be coming from HHS?
No, I don't, but I mean, you have a finite amount of space that they are gonna be utilizing, so.
But it'll impact parking as well as.
Sure, and I would note that we do have a parking item coming to council's agenda, next week. Actually, we're purchasing, 2 lots, just, down the street at 17th and Superior. So that'll be under first reading. So we are moving forward in regards to the HHS consolidation. We're still working that out. K2M, who is involved in our criteria architecture work for this group, they are about to hand off their architecture to now a new group, DS, who's going to be doing all of the work in regards to HHS. So as you know, there 2,400 people make up that group. So there's a lot more work. The primary building of them will be down the street at Virgil Brown. So we're still working through that, so I can't give you anything definitive.
Just, I understand, again, just as with security, parking is pivotal. The reason and main driver for us wanting to move is the parking situation. So anything that might potentially impact parking, we need to be knowing that, and really we have no, it would be extremely disappointing to hear somehow that more HHS people are coming and need to be in the building, and now we have reduced our parking for voters and also our parking for our own staff. Parking is key, so I know you may not have the business, I don't mean to be picking on you, I just, when you're here, we're so excited you're here, because we get to have our questions answered at that. So, just so you know, as the project key person, security and parking are the main drivers, not the only drivers for this move, and remain critical for our operation. And any impacts to parking and space allocation, we talked about space allocate planning, potentially adversely impact our ability to administer elections. So please, if there's any, and it's why I think there should be a sublease and some written documentation, so we can be real clear on, what's gonna be. But that's just my view. Maybe the lawyers, the other lawyers, my wife's still a lawyer, I'm retired, but maybe y'all can figure it out.
Can I piggyback? Also, I think along with that would be, I don't know if you have any anticipation of clients coming to the building for the health. And that's another
Right.
part of that whole pie. Is a lot of people per day? Is it?
I didn't think that was a public.
I thought-
Yeah, we talked about that.
I thought it was, but I don't know. if
Yeah.
it's-
But if the consolidation looks different from.
Yeah, that's
It's our
where it could
understanding there was
matter.
gonna be a lot of public traffic coming in for client services.
Yeah, a lot of those details, like I said, they're still trying to figure out how the pieces will come together in regards to.
Well,
yeah.
But that's a critical piece, because when we had the discussion, it was supposed to be administrators, there wasn't gonna be that upfront of public.
Public.
So I would keep that in mind when you have those discussions, because that was kind of what we did discuss early on.
We get it's sort of fluid, but from our perspective, it can't be so fluid that we are morphing from some real key points for us, because it really will negatively potentially impact our ability to do our jobs for the voters in this county. And the whole point of moving is to improve our ability to do it. So and so I know, and I mean to shoot the messenger, and I know it's still in the works, but these are, when you're here, we have to reiterate, these are our real concerns. And I know the Tonys are very good about advocating for us, but you need to hear it from us too.
Sure.
And take it back to, the folks over there that, we can't continue, we wanna make sure we are in a position where it's getting to be crunch time. We need to have the goals, need not to be aspirational at this point. We need to really kind of know X, Y, and Z to the best we can. And maybe if we memorialize, I always find when people start putting things in writing and memorializing them, there tends to be greater adherence to what's been talked about, but.
Sure,
Okay.
sure, understood. Understood.
All right, good. Yeah, please, one more.
There's one more, and it's kind of aside from the building. I just want to put this on record too, with as we heard earlier, the Secretary of State's mailing out both by mail applications around Labor Day, and I know we've been looking to move the Dropbox.
Closer to the sidewalk.
Yeah. So I'm thinking just 10 days ago, Tony may have had a conversation with Matt Reimer, my facility administrator, and Dan Paul to just talk about how this parking lot and the voter box is gonna be moved around, tents, jersey barriers. So we are working through a lot of that detail right now, and I think we've got a pretty good plan in place, and I won't speak for Tony on that.
Yeah, I think we have had good conversations, in getting that set up. I reached out to Matt owes me another meeting, not because we're at the point where we need to have dates on the calendar.
Sure.
As to when we're breaking ground, moving this, that, on that, and not that it's massive things. The Dropbox is probably our priority, because that goes first.
Once those applications go out, a lot of people drop them off at the box.
Yeah.
That's just ballots, so.
Yep.
Right, that's what we did, yeah, so, so hopefully Matt and I will connect again, so we can get, Ideally, it'd be great, middle of August. Of course, I'm not doing the work. I don't think it's a massive project because we also know that that box will be making another journey, so it's not like you're digging it down to the core to anchor it, it'll be safe, but.
It's a priority project and
Yeah.
I'm confident that we will have it completed in time to everyone's satisfaction.
One last question, if I could, is there a contingency plan on your end and for, I mean, I'm hoping that we
To
won't.
move the box?
No, this is generally speaking, if something gets derailed, something unforeseen happens that impacts some of the critical timelines,
Yeah.
we have some contingency planning going on. I like to think that hopefully we don't need any of that, but it's always good, and we are always have a contingency plan from our, am I misspeaking? I'm saying we
No,
always have
I mean,
contingency planning, I think we do, but just wanna know if you guys have some contingency. It doesn't do what the landlord's supposed to do, when the landlord's supposed to do it. I mean, what kind of fight, at least if you don't have it, kind of think through that, because we are gonna have to be reliant on the schedule that you guys give us. And if we need to have a contingency plan, if something goes haywire, we need to have a contingency plan, so just if you could think about
No,
that.
it's important to have that. Anything of that critical path can fall off, and so we need to be prepared for that. It could be that you may stay in this building longer than we anticipated than January, so, that's worst case scenario. But, I think we've got a pretty decent team together, and I think, everybody is rowing in the same direction. So hopefully we won't have any issues here, and, you know, it's much like any other significant project, and I'm not trying to minimize it, but it's important to get you in there by January, and I'm fully aware of that, so we'll keep that as part of a discussion point for tomorrow, actually.
Does the landlord have incentives to, have you reviewed the lease?
Rent,
Yeah, it's rent.
Well,
That's their
yeah,
incentive.
that's usually the incentive, but.
That's the incentive. That's why they're eager to get it.
Yeah, are there any penalties? I mean, I know it's their building, but you know, we are totally at the mercy of, you know, I guess if you're saying worst case scenario is we stay here. I just like people to do what they covenant to do when they're supposed to do it. And if they're not, you know, do we have any other incentives? Maybe we won't, no, we'll take penalties. Are there any other incentives besides the rent for getting it done?
Yeah, I think the rent is a significant
Okay,
hit.
have you reviewed the lease, Mark?
Not in that level of detail.
Could you
Liquidated
do that
damages
and
are-
let us know if there's any
LDs.
things we should be worrying about?
And also, next year too is a rolling deadline because it's local elections, so just be mindful of that as well, because if we do have any pushes or delays, I don't want there to be any confusion that we have a group that files earlier, because there'll be petitions filed, beginning of the year all the way through to August for all these local elections, so we could keep that in mind, because we don't want those first group of candidates to not know where to go. And then also, I think there's even a big, campaign finance filing deadline typically end of January, so if we could just keep that in mind, if there are any pushes or delays.
yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. We are loaded and filled with deadlines, and we've been, very clear that, January 25 off the February 1, is critical. If we don't hit that, we honestly are looking like June, because
I was gonna ask.
February is the filing deadline. Early
Yeah,
vote or
Big-
Evo
big
Cava starts
deadline.
in March. We're in election cycle, we're advertising and all those things, and then the window in June is a smaller window than January, because especially in 25, Cleveland is on the ballot in September.
yeah.
It's every 4 years,
My
they're filing
goodness,
deadlines
it's always
for
flood in
September.
New Year.
It never ends.
So,
Redistrict too.
well, we do have to redistrict, and I think we start that process after Thanksgiving. I think, Cleveland is starting to work internally with their city council on what that board structure
Okay.
looks like, and then that, and of course, comes to us to redraw all the precincts in Cleveland, which
Oh, wow.
will be used for the 2025 election. So it's slow time for us.
Oh, yeah, right.
Goes from the presidential into that, but, we are like a broken record, repeating it to Mike and the team, and it was definitely, we made sure that was known during the lease agreements with the county law department and everything. It was like, look at this, you don't have this flexibility. Well, if we don't make this, then this, it's like, no, here or 2026. And nobody wants that, and so that's where we're trying to get there.
And Mike, thank you for
Yes,
your
thank you.
hard work and really, keeping everybody on task and being such a great partner with us. We do appreciate that.
No, great partners too, and I'm telling you, this is working out really well, and, I'll be back next month or, your next board meeting, maybe to give another update, if that's all right.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you again.
All right, on to agenda item number 4, absentee services. I move to approve to outsource the printing of vote by mail ballots for the November 5th, 2024 presidential general election.
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Chappelle. Any readiness? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Ayes have it. On the ballot, I move preliminary approval of the ballot order for the November 5th, 2024 presidential general election.
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Chappelle. Any unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. And on to election officials, I move the approval to appoint not less than 2 precinct election officials for each precinct pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 3501.22 for the November 5th, 2024 presidential general election.
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Chappelle, all in favor, aye. Aye, the ayes have it. And on the election support, and I move the preliminary authorization for the allocation of voting booths for the November 5th, 2024 presidential general election with the information supplied in agenda item 7.
Second that.
Second by Ms. Chappelle, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. On the fiscal services, we have a resolution before us, and I move the approval of resolution of the contract for RC 2024-0725 advanced voting LLC live election nights voting software. And Mr. McAlay is at the podium. The chair recognizes Mr. McAlay.
Good morning.
Morning.
Pat Mackley, Assistant Manager of Fiscal Services. We're asking for your approval on 3 items today. The first one is a contract for election night reporting. The recommendation is for Enhanced Voting LLC. It's an initial 2-year contract for $57,000. There's optional 3 years after that we'd have to come back and talk about after the first 2 years.
I can add, so that what this product is, this software, this is currently, 10X provides that, and that's, election night when you're looking and you see the bar chart and all those types of results and, X of Y number of 6 reporting and those types of things. That's what this product, is, election, night reporting. And so we did go out for bid. That contract had expired, and part of that is the way that Mark, working with Sean Kita, structured the bid was that it wasn't just gonna be who comes in with the lowest price. We were in the presentation, we were gonna score, we did score items to get what is the best functionality at a reasonable, fair price for us. And enhanced voting, we had used them previously one time for our remote ballot marking, which is the ADA solution. They were good to work with and they had a good product. However, they got outbid the following time, so we weren't able to stick with them.
Underbid, we're underbid?
They were underbid on that, yes, on the other product. So that was a good relationship with them. So we do have some experience with them. This product here will give us some additional reporting functionality other than just an Excel spreadsheet. So that was kind of one of the nice features about this. There'll be more items for the board, but for the voters to see. And also, right now, when we do our election night reporting on election night, we have that there. I mean, we don't use that information anymore. With this product here, we're gonna be able to keep that. We're able to then update it to include the certified results, meaning we're bringing in provisionals and ballot post elections, and we'll be able to keep information on our website for public consumption, for record requests and all that, which is new functionality that we don't have. As well as an election administration internally, some of the testing functions that we get as we prepare the to put it on like an election night, it's more robust, we have more access to it, which is always good, because we have, Signage is a good vendor, this particular product, we've had some issues when we've gone from a test environment to a live environment. They've always rectified it on election night at some point, but it'd be nice to be able to do the more robust, have that functionality of testing and those things to be able to ensure 100% good product on election night when we publish.
Based on the write-up, it sounded like also that the enhanced voting offered a nice feature for the public that may tenant offer in terms of a search by candidate, searching the results by candidate name, and tenants didn't offer that as.
Yes, it's definitely more intuitive and offering those types of things, which is really nice. They only have a couple of products. So those couple of products that they have, they are really building it out to the full capacity versus not that 10X isn't, their stuff isn't good, but their poll books are their bread and butter, and they're at the top of the game there, and some of the other things, and this happens to be really the top of enhanced voting.
And they work with their ballot too, is that?
They do, so they have customers, not in Ohio, but they have Pennsylvania customers and other customers who use clear ballot equipment in the field that they are successfully reporting their results.
Any other questions? We'll take these separately. So I move to approve the resolution and enter contract for Enhanced Voting LLC.
A second.
Second by Ms. Chappelle. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. McElwain.
The second item is for the annual maintenance of the registration system. We're in the final 3 years of the current agreement. So we're asking approval for next year's cost is $67,487.24.
Okay, so I move to approve the resolution for ES&S for a DEMS annual maintenance fee, and that is 9A.
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Chappelle. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
The ayes have it. It's item B.
Okay, the last item, it's for the generator that you see outside at the back door. We went out to bid for that, and this is the lowest response. This is gonna take us through the end of November, $28,634.50. And that's something that we've had here for each election. And like I said, we went out to bid, and they were the lowest. Prices going up a little bit.
Yeah, and so what we do is for every countywide election, you get a generator typically for a month for the early vote. But this going into the presidential election year, we got this generator in time, one for the statewide petitions, because you have type 10 timelines, and this generator powers our server room, and if we need to, and the computers to be able to do that. And then also, some of the computer work that goes on at the Haley warehouse is driven off of what happens on the third. So we are, like Patrick said, we got it in July. We're going to keep it through certification of the results, because we're not in a position to be without really our voter registration database and things like that. Knowing that this is a larger expense than we typically have, we did go to Office of Budget and Management of the county and ask for an additional appropriation to cover this, to which that was approved by county council. So we did get the funding for it. As a side note, when we go to 1801 Superior, the county actually spec'd out this building for a permanent generator that would power this building in a power outage. That has come in, but they're not installing that because that's ripping up parking lot and it's a major product. That generator is going to 1801 and it is for Board of Elections to be able to work with the county electricians to tie in what we need to, so we won't have to rent something like this anymore. We'll have what they're calling it a megawatt generator, which sounds impressive. I think it is, but that'll be nice. So if we weren't leaving, that generator would be getting installed here, which ultimately would eat up about another 6 parking spots that we don't have to get to. So that's just a side piece of information.
Any other questions? All right, I move to approve the resolution for Buckeye Power Supply.
Second.
Second by Ms. Chappelle, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
McAlay. All right, under registration, the chair recognizes Mr. Hassani Weeds.
Chairman, if I can, as Mr. Weed comes to the podium, we do have several challengers, but when you look at them, really it's 2 groupings. And so, of course, everyone is entitled to their own individual opportunity to speak. It pretty much is the same fact pattern.
Groups.
Each group has a different fact pattern, but for the people in those groups, it's the
Yeah,
same
it looks
fact
like
pattern.
there's 2
So
groups
you
for
have 2
this.
groups,
Yeah.
items 10 through 19
Right.
are one group, and then
Yeah.
items 20 and 21.
Yes.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Weed, if you would tee this up, and then we'll move forward.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Sonny Weeds, Registration Manager. You should have before you a total of 10 Form 257s, challenge of the right to vote and correction of registration lists. That was submitted by Mr. Dennis Cully and received by the Board of Elections on June 7th, 2024. Mr. Cully, a registered voter in Cuyahoga County, is challenging the voter residency of 10 voters. David Biagas, Ronald Coleman, Cynthia DeLugo, Terry Green, Francis Kish, Millie McKinney, Maud Kumar, Wanda Raybon, Tanya Rushton, and Clay Williams Jr. Mr. Dennis Cully noted in his challenge that 16231 Broadway Road is a vacant address per the USPS, and that it was previously known as the Maple Care Center Nursing Home. Mr. Cully also notes that the property has a warranty deed in lieu that was filed on May 2nd, 2022 for back taxes per the Cuyahoga County Property Summary Report. CCBOE staff reached out to the City of Maple Heights Senior Center Department, who confirmed that the Maple Care Center facility is vacant and has been closed for a few years. A few notes on the 10 challenge voters. None of the 10 challenge voters have had any voter activity at the 16231 Broadway Road address since the 2017 general election. All 10 voters were put into an inactive status in the voter registration database in September of 2021 for inactivity. As part of the 2021 SOS supplemental process, confirmation notices were mailed out to all 10 voters registered at 16231 Broadway Road between November 1st, 2021 and November 17th, 2021. All 10 confirmation notices were returned to the CCBOE as undeliverable mail. Pending that there is no voter activity on these records, all 10 of the voter records are set to be canceled in 2025. We did do a follow-up phone call with Mr. Dennis Cully on June 10th, 2024, informing him of our research and informing him of the pending 2025 cancellations. However, Mr. Cully had expressed to us that he didn't want to wait for those cancellations to occur. He wanted to move forward with this challenge. He had some concerns that someone was going to try to vote by mail from the vacant address.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wheat. Mr. Cully is on the line. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Okay, Mr. Cully, we're going to ask if you will be sworn in by our court reporter, and then we will ask you a few questions.
Sure.
You raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And welcome, Mr. Cully, and thank you for being with us today. We've read your challenges and just wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us anything that we might not be able to glean from the documents that you submitted.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address the board. So I hate the way this is worded, challenge the right to vote of certain individuals. I prefer to think of this as trying to make the voter registration list as accurate as possible. So the reason I even involved in this effort is that I discovered in 2008 that my own mother voted in an election while she was an Alzheimer's resident in a nursing home. So how she was registered there and how she voted is complete mystery to us. I'm one of 7 children, and I addressed all my siblings about this, and none of them have any idea how this actually happened. So I think there's a lot of vulnerabilities that the election process is a very fundamental to everything that happens in the country. It drives everything. People have the right to vote. They shouldn't be denied the right to vote, but they should only be provided the vote, once and according to the rules. So this is really kind of addressing, how this process actually happens. I think there needs to be substantial improvements in it. The place to do that, through my own experience of trying to even uncover these things, it's a very tedious process. It would be best done by the county itself because they have access to all kinds of records, county records of death, death certificates. They have property records, they have tax records, they have all kinds of things. So I think this process could be substantially improved, and so that's my opinion. And so these 10 people are kind of a test case for me, I guess. But everything that was stated up front is accurate. You can even go to there's a sign out front of the location that lists it for sale. So I don't know if there's anything else to be said about it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cully. Fellow board members, any questions for Mr. Cully?
No questions for Mr. Cully. Just a question about, to Mr. Cully's point, is there anything that we can do if we get somehow notice that a senior facility, I'm assuming this is a senior facility, or when they close, and we do have voter assistance in nursing homes throughout the county. But when they closed, what kind of notice do we get? Because I'm guessing, but I would speculate that these 10 who last voted in 2017 were probably residents there. I don't know, but it seems to me when these facilities close, at least on our one proactive thing we could do is get notice of that, and then we could have our own sort of audit about voters at those particular facilities, because when they close, obviously, they're not there, they're not voting from there. We could have our own initiation of, we could be the ones challenging the right to vote at those places. Do we get notice is the question about any closure of the senior facilities where we might actually dispatch, sometimes we dispatch our workers to the nursing homes. Any thoughts around that?
It's a good question.
We do not get automatic notice that a facility is closing. Not all facilities engage with us as far as doing assisted voting for those residents. If it were a facility that we do, I'll say is a regular partner with us, if that were the case, then that's a different fact pattern, and that is easy for us to go ahead and monitor it.
And residents with Alzheimer's wouldn't be voting.
Right, so there's, so we do have that, but for something like this, no, there's no automatic mechanism or anything that comes. Now, what we do have is, what is in place is looking at activity, and there was no activity, and these people are on the list. But that's not instantaneous.
Right.
That is a 4-year window, so there is a general process that would catch something like this, or something that would be in instant time. No, there's not something where they're required to report that to us. We don't monitor all the tax records of the county.
But I wonder if there could be something like from the Ohio Department of Health.
Yeah, or
That monitors senior facilities, if we could maybe
No, that's a good
discuss with them,
Sure.
possibly alerting us if there's some closures. Or if one opens, exactly. I mean,
of course, the
it's just,
county itself has a department that monitors.
or even the county that
Yeah.
may have
Yeah.
so maybe just,
They changed their name, some changed.
Some just changed their name, so, but to close, to go to a vacant lot, for there to be a closing, in this kind of instance, it would just be helpful if maybe the agencies that are involved in monitoring or regulating these agencies would notify us. That should be something that could be done.
Also, if we mailed to the address and it came back undeliverable is closed, maybe that's a flag too, because I don't see the need to wait till 2025 if we know that this is just avoid bad address. This is there's no facility there anymore. So, you know,
Well, and to your point, I think that's where we would self-generate a challenge.
okay.
Because I think that is the tool, the mechanism to do something
Right.
sooner, but we have we've
Yeah,
initiated
sure.
challenges, and so we would do something like that, and I think, you know, to the comments here, I think one of the things that we'll start off with is the county Health and Human Services as a Department of Senior Adult Services. Right, and so I think that's probably a place to start, and if that's not the place to be, they will get us to where we need to be, because I didn't even think about that there's a record that someone is paying attention to
Yeah.
when a facility of that nature opens or
Well, they're
closes.
paying attention to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I guess, you know, not on my radar, but now it is, and well, that's a good suggestion.
Thanks to Mr. Cully for putting it on the radar.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Oh,
And
so can I ask another question too? You know, the best defense is to prevent this from happening at all. So the fact that parties are going out to these facilities and registering these people who are obviously, if you're in an Alzheimer's unit, you're really not capable of making intelligent decisions about voting. So is there any controls on that process in terms of, you know, trying to put these people on the registration list that seems just kind of taking advantage of people?
Just say, so the Board of Elections ourselves, we are not, we provide registration services and materials, but as far as something like that, I would make an assumption, that's more so anyone can go out and start to register individuals, whether it's a nonprofit organization or someone who just feels like I'm gonna go ahead and I want to do that. So as far as preventing them from going somewhere, I don't know how you do that, because I think that's just a right that people have to go and do.
Was your mom registered before she was in the facility as a voter, or is your contention that somebody went and registered her while she was in an Alzheimer's unit?
Well, she has voted her whole life. Yeah, but she didn't register herself in the facility. Somebody had.
No, that wasn't so I'd like to think the better of folks, so I would like to think maybe folks are fully cognitively abled voters. Often they're seniors and they go into facilities and their registration follows them to that address. And then they become, you know, have a decline, and then that somehow that happens. I'm not saying that.
I'm gonna bring us back to a point of order, because we're not here to solve that case.
Yeah.
I want to deal with the cases before us.
You're right.
So we've had Mr. Wheat has teed this up. We've heard from Mr. Cully. And I'm gonna ask, is David Biagas or an attorney representing him present? Ronald H. Coleman or an attorney representing him present? Cynthia DeLugo or an attorney representing her present? Terry L. Green or an attorney representing Terry Green present? Francis Raymond Kish or an attorney representing Francis Kish? Nellie McKinney or an attorney representing Nellie McKinney? Maud M. Kamar or an attorney representing Maud Kamar? Wanda F. Raybon or an attorney representing Wanda F. Raybon? Tanya Rushton or an attorney representing Tanya Rushton? Clay W. Williams Jr. or an attorney representing Clay W. Williams Jr. Those persons have not presented themselves, nor has an attorney presented themselves representing them. So we have before us the challenge to the right to vote of these individuals from items 10 through 19, and having heard the evidence and reviewed the evidence presented before us, I move that we uphold the challenge to the right to vote for the individuals listed in items 10 through 19, and that their registrations be canceled.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Ms. Chappelle. Any unreadiness?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. It is so ordered. Thank you, Mr. Cully,
Thank
for
you.
your time and attention.
Thank you very
All
much,
right.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Wheat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You should have before you two Form 257s, challenge of the right to vote and correction of registration lists that was submitted by Mr. Willie P. Jones III and received by the Board of Elections on July 2nd, 2024. Mr. Jones III, a registered voter in Cuyahoga County, is challenging the voter residency of Brian Wilkes and Samantha Williams. Mr. Jones III noted in his challenge that Brian Wilkes and Samantha Williams do not live at the 2042 West 100th Street address in Cleveland. Mr. Jones III noted again in his affidavit, signed July 20th, 2024, that he owns the property at 2042 West 100th Street, has resided there for over 22 years, and that neither Brian Wilkes nor Samantha Williams have ever lived at 2042 West 100th Street. The voter registrations of Brian Wilkes and Samantha Williams were received from the organization Blackwork Strategies via a registration drive and was processed on June 12th, 2024. The registrations of Mr. Wilkes and Ms. Williams were put in an inactive status on the same day due to routine SOS and CCBOE quality assurance measures that were unable to verify relevant voter information through the BMV SSA verification processes. Blackwork Strategies was made aware of Mr. Jones III's concerns regarding the voter registration of Mr. Wilkes and Mrs. Williams. Blackwork Strategies spoke with their employee who has circulated and collected the registration cards. However, that employee had no additional insights on this matter. CCBOE staff and Blackwork Strategies attempted to contact Mr. Wilkes and Mrs. Williams, but were unable to reach either individual.
Thank you.
Is Blackfork Strategies, isn't that the group we've had previous issue and referral on, or am I getting the name wrong? 'Cause it was- Yeah, so we do have a referral to Secretary of State on registrations received from this group.
Yes, I don't remember the detail, but we do.
What was of concern to me was these two cards from the same worker who submitted them, it sounds like, and they have like different zip codes. So, I mean, are they getting paid maybe per registration and they're just, I don't know, I'm not trying to make
Yeah.
assumptions, but that was something that caught my eye. As opposed to maybe a couple that got their address wrong, you have two different zip codes. And were Brian Wilkes or Samantha Williams voters in other place in Cuyahoga County, or
No,
we just have no record? Do we have any record of them?
This was their first registration.
Okay. And, again, I know people can register later, but I see their date of birth about 70s, so, I don't know. So I guess, I don't know if this is something we want to also flag as a part of, not refer, but just, hey, since we already have a referral out. I just found that a little disturbing, saying.
So what, the board should expect is in August,
Yes,
we're gonna come with, as you can imagine, statewide petitions have been all consuming the
Yeah,
priority.
that's
But
right.
as we go to cards, Sonny and his team have identified some groupings of things that seem to be a little bit abnormal, whether it's some maybe non-genuine signatures or some other items like that. So now that we've gotten through that, between now and the next meeting, we want to put together a report on
Okay.
some things that we're seeing with Blackwork Strategies
yes,
that just potentially could rise to a level that it's just not maybe a common mistake. And so we want to assemble that report, present that report, and then the board can deliberate on potentially if there's additional action item we may want to do, as an example, public integrity or whatever it may be, for
okay,
further research. So,
that makes sense.
because we are seeing, some things that just don't seem to be right. And we do have regular communication with leadership in Blackfork. And they're receptive, and try to work with us, but they bring on a lot of people. And so I think there's a lot of good work going on, but there may be some other things that we need to take a little look at.
Well, I mean, since we referred them, I would say it's a concern. So, I mean, when they come in and they bring submissions in, obviously it's a legitimate registration. We want to make sure it goes through, but I mean, you also don't want to have someone have potentially two people registered at their house and feel alarmed about it, such that they have to come to us on it. So just, I don't know if it's an ability to really scrutinize that. It sounds like this was caught though, like they were not, which is good work. I mean, that they were not initially, I guess they were inactive initially.
Well, they were put into the system,
Okay,
and so when you go into the system, you go in as active. But one of the checks that's in place is it's called a BMV/SSA, Social Security Administration check. And where information, and this is the whole state does this, is automatically querying that. And it comes back and it says, hey, either we have no record of these people, or something seems to be amiss there.
Oh, wow.
We do that, we put them inactive, and we send out a notice to them. So we executed that process with them. This came to our attention because also when you initially register someone or update a registration, we automatically send out an acknowledgement notice to that address saying, hey, we processed you.
yeah.
This is your precinct and this is your point location. to
Okay,
sign.
that's good.
So Mr. Jones got those and goes, wait a second,
Oh, wow.
they
Yeah.
don't live here. And so,
Yeah.
so that's how he initiated his process based on that. Now, the BNVSSA is separate and that ran its course too. But let's say, for example, the post office didn't mail, they went to Mr. Jones's house, but they said, some mail carriers, they don't live here, and they return it to us undeliverable. That causes us to take another action too of putting them in a multiple provisional status, sending them another notification. So there's
Right.
things in the system, but this is how Mr. Jones got involved, because that initial confirmation saying, hey, hooray, you're registered, and here's where you go to vote. And he's like, not hooray, you don't live here.
Yeah.
And he reached out, and this is the process.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just can we get it, when you give us that report, can you also give us a report, about the items and matters we referred to the election integrity unit? Because I feel like we've sent a few things down there and some have been pending for a while, and if we could just
Get an update,
understand,
maybe.
get a status report on some of these things. I know we had the East Cleveland, the King matter went down there. That's been a while, and I know they're probably busy, but the election integrity unit ought to report back to us at some point, even if it's just we're still working on or what.
Ongoing, maybe.
Something's ongoing, but something should be done by some of us.
And I believe we did share this with, at the conference. And
Yes.
They committed to at least giving us some type
Yes.
of, it might not be high level, but hey, it's in process.
Right.
or Some kind of a status, so that wasn't.
They were familiar.
Oh, yeah, they're working on it.
1735.
They were familiar.
All right, so we have the matter before us. Mr. Reed has teed up the issue before us for the protest, the challenge the right to vote by Mr. Willie Jones III against Brian Wilkes and Samantha Williams. I'm going to ask for the record, is Mr. Willie P. Jones III present or an attorney representing him? Okay, but he did supply us with an affidavit on July the 20th, 2024, where he attests in a sworn affidavit notarized that he has owned the residence at 2042 West 100th Street for over 22 years, and that neither Brian Wilkes or Samantha Williams have ever resided in that location. So we have his sworn testimony via affidavit. The chair asks, is Mr. Brian Wilkes or an attorney representing him present, or Samantha Williams or an attorney representing her present? Seeing none, I move to uphold the challenge filed by Willie Jones against Brian Wilkes and Samantha Williams, and that their voter registrations be canceled.
I will second that and would just ask as a friendly amendment to that motion that we make the affidavit for Mr. Willie P. Jones part of the record.
Yes, absolutely. And with that friendly amendment, the motion is before us. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same side, and the ayes have it, and it is so ordered.
And then if I could just, I did mention this, but like, I know you're doing the report, that could be flagged, because if there is someone who works for the company, just, you know, submitting these, it's the same person, it sounded like it did both of these, and different zip codes, et cetera, and these are all red flags, maybe that could be something if we do an amended referral or just down the road,
Definitely,
okay?
yeah, and then
Yeah.
I guess to your point. We worked with, and a lot of the state is following, when we worked with these, there's two Black Forest and Second Street strategies. To put coding on their card, so we can trace back to circulators.
Oh, that's great.
And it's something that we've done for a little while, and sometimes registration drives are more willing to do it or not willing to do it, or they put the information on a part of the card that gets cut off when we process it, and then it's no good. But they have worked to keep that on there, so we have this coding. We don't know who that person is, but we can go to them and say, here you go. And they're able to work and see, and they have thus far this summer, because they have a presidential year, they have this drive that they're doing. They have let people go from the company, and they try to coach up other individuals too. But still, things happen and we need to address it, so
Yeah.
we definitely can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you.
All right, on to our human resources agenda. We have several items before us. I move the following promotions. Marlene Robinson Stadler from Assistant Manager to Manager, Election Officials Department, effective July 29th, 2024. The promotion of Michael Babinski from Election Official 2 in the Ballot Prep and Tab Department to Supervisor Absentee Services Department, effective July 29th, 2024. The appointment of Latera Brown to Manager Fiscal Department, effective August 19th, 2024. The reassignment of Mary Robinson, Assistant Manager Registration Department to Assistant Manager Election Officials Department, effective July 29th, 2024. We accept the retirement with thanks for her service of Donna Pope on the Ballot Prep and Tab Department, Election Official 2, effective September 20th, 2024, and the leave donation for Amy Allen, Program Coordinator, Election Support Department, effective August 2nd, 2024. We'll take those in one motion, and then we'll take the next one. So those are moved before us.
I'll second that, Mark.
Second by Ms. Chappelle, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and I move to approve the staff development tuition reimbursement program for Marlene Robinson Stadler for the American College of Education in the amount of $1,000. Second by Ms. Chappelle, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Mr. Perlotti, we have you for new business, and I think we also have a presentation from Mr. West.
Yeah, so what I'd like during new business, I probably want to start it off with Mike West. He's going to talk just a little bit about this voter education integrity education series that we're working on, and take you through that, show you one of the videos they're creating, and then after that, I just wanted to give an update on vice presidential filing deadlines. But we had some activity in this in the last couple of weeks, and make sure that everyone understands kind of what the rules are with that, and just also just a couple of items that we're currently working on preparing for election.
Sure.
Yeah.
Before Mr. West comes, Mr. Bell, you have the floor.
Just a quick question for you, Mike. So there was an article that was circulated not too long ago as part of your getting out the information on the media too. I think one of the reporters had the wrong date of the election in the article that was probably seen by a lot of folks. Did we get them to correct that?
Yes, the
Okay.
good news is they put stuff up on their website before it goes in the print edition. So when I saw that 5 minutes later, she was able to pull that up and change the election date.
So it didn't go out?
So some people might have seen it
Okay.
with the wrong date, but then a little while later, it had the correct date. Now, since everybody doesn't have a subscription to the newspaper, You guys got a hard copy with the old date, but after I talked to her, I went on the website and sure enough, she had addressed that, so.
It's just, we can't afford for people to be sending out the wrong day of the elections.
Right, well,
Thanks for your catch on.
you're welcome. And the staff also helps me catch these little
Thanks,
mistakes
staff.
that we see.
Mr. West, you have the floor.
Okay, so, first of all, we want a little shout out for Tony, who came up with the concept of the election integrity series and provided us the resources. And we've got some folks here that were a big part of it. We want to recognize Lily, Wade, yeah, also Athena, and Jeff and Peter also have been a big part of this really big job. And Tony Caliger and Amelia also contributed to this effort. So we're off to a good start. 2 Mondays ago, we kicked things off with a video from Tony introducing the series. And the Plain Dealer did provide some coverage, Channel 19 some coverage, probably some other media some coverage, but unless they put it on their website, we don't have record of it. Also, our community municipal partners are also helping spread the word that these things are available. So the idea is to start with Facebook, and then we drive people to our website where they get the whole menu of the election integrity information. And we also encourage individuals, groups, whoever, to share the information with their contacts and their followers. So you can see there's a domino effect to try to reach hundreds of thousands of people. And of course, this is a very topical subject because over the last few years, there's been a lot of questions about election integrity. So just in time for the presidential election. This also developed into a conversation with John Cossack at Channel 5 News. And he'd like to do a series of 2-minute election integrity pieces that will be sprinkled in over the air. We just talked about that yesterday, so we're working out the details. But we envision Tony going over the 9 main topics and they'll use them in their news program. Because of some technical reasons, for those of you on Zoom, we're gonna have to leave Zoom for a couple minutes because it's the only way I can show you what's on the website and play a video without interference from the other equipment. So, Connor, could you please bring up the website?
Before you bring, but I just Thanks to our interns who.
Yeah, big
know all
fan.
that, how to do all that good stuff.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
West.
Mike.
Thank you, to your department. Mr. Pillar.
Okay, so, presidential, presidential candidates and getting on the Ohio ballot. So typically, not 2024, but, 90 days before a general election is when the major political parties must certify the joint names of their presidential and vice presidential candidate to the Secretary of State's office. And so that 90-day deadline is August 7th, 2024. But in this year, the Democratic National Convention is not being held till August 19th or the 22nd. And so the legislature and the governor needed to work on a solution to figure out how do we make this work? Because with the dates not lining up. And so the legislature did pass House Bill number 2. What that does is that delays the deadline for the major political parties to certify their presidential and vice presidential candidates to the Secretary of State. So it's taking it from that 90-day mark of August 7th to September 1st. And so September 1st falls after the Democratic Convention that's being held the 19th through the 22nd. And so you have that September 1st deadline. Now, as a side note, the Democratic National Convention is thinking of having a roll call vote that falls within how they do their business, and they may certify something prior to the convention to the Secretary of State's office. But ultimately, when we go ahead and build our ballot, it's based off a directive that we get from the Secretary of State, and he says, here's the names that are to appear on the ballot. With House Bill 2. And House Bill 2 only pertains to the presidential candidates in 2024. He can't issue that directive prior to September 1st. And so he has a deadline, Secretary of State LaRose, of September 6th, in which he has to issue that directive, send it to the boards of elections as far as the names and form of the ballot. So this is about 10 days later than the original deadline. Now, Uwakava for this election opens up on Friday, September 10th. And so while that is a little bit tighter time frame, doesn't mean that us here in Cuyahoga County have to wait until September 6th to do what we need to do. We can start to build the ballot off the other things that come in. And you can pretty much assume that you're going to have a Republican and a Democratic candidates. So if we don't even have the official names, we'll have placeholders on the ballot. So we'll do all of those things. So we'll be able to stay the course. We just won't be able to finalize anything until we get that official directive, which we need by the 6th. But everything that's happened in the last week or so doesn't impact us at this point in time. That's all political party stuff that goes on. For us, for election administration purposes, we have our timeline, we have what we're going to do. Ballots aren't being printed or any of those types of things because we haven't even started the proofing process. We still have a filing deadline to come. So, so hopefully, just the general public, we want to make sure they realize that all the events, we're still on a timeline to meet the laws of the state of Ohio in order to have ballots with the appropriate names placed on those ballots to be able to meet all the deadlines that we have. Something happens, closer to when Uwakava opens, it's a different story. And that's when judges are involved and they're telling us how to do everything that we need to do at that point. But hopefully that won't be the case and everything will be settled and we'll be able to meet all these things. So I'm sure you may have gotten some phone calls. I know I have. Oh my gosh, what do? We just sit back and we stay the course because none of our statutory deadlines have come upon us yet.
And I think that's very helpful for us to know.
Yes. And I should say that the directive, it's always a good reminder to know that the directive is what triggers
Sure.
what we do. The directive from the chief elections officer, from the secretary of state triggers what we do in terms of placing the names on the ballots.
Good.
Yeah.
Good update.
No, very good.
Yeah.
Any other updates?
And then just a couple of going on, the election, well, maybe we thought we had a little bit of time, it definitely is here. And so, we're working on a lot of different things this week. Victor Rush in this department has pushed out the point location contracts for the private locations, so those have set sail. And then by this Friday, he'll push out the contracts for the Cleveland Municipal School District buildings that we utilize. And then next week, we'll dive further into getting out the contracts for the public locations. So getting all that out.
We haven't gotten any responses from any of our polling locations saying they're not gonna do it, have we?
No, because they just went out. Now, we do have, like, we knew going into this, after March, people saying, hey, we're a no-go for November, whatever it is. So we do have some changes, and those we've actually already have done the ADA assessment, we've locked them in.
Notify voters?
Yes, letters going out, so those have been going out on a rolling basis for the voters of that, and all that information will be captured in the voter information guide that we send out, that you will hopefully be approving at the next board meeting to go out and bid, and those came in just not in time for today. So we're rocking and rolling with that, because those poll locations have a big impact on a lot of other things we do, such as, in addition to where voters go and notifying them. For example, we can't put in vote by mail applications till we set the election. One of the things we need to set the election is have poll places locked in. So we're going with that. In about 2 weeks from now, we'll start having temporary employees come into the poll worker department. We'll start working on training, and then recruiting will be up and running soon, middle of August, because training starts, I think, September 7th or somewhere in that field. So it's right there. So we have finished our edits to the poll worker training manual. That's gone out to bid to have a vendor print those. We made all our lessons learned updates into the documents, so they're in there. And staff are now trying to finalize some of the quick reference guides that we utilize that mirror the manual, but you needed the manual first, bigger job. We're gonna go and print 5,000 of them, because everyone is required to do in-person training for the November election, regardless if they worked or not in March. It's Secretary of State says all that. So we have our polling location or training locations that we've worked on. We have a schedule for that. And so we have all these things lining up to be able to push the go button on that. We've been scheduling a lot of different meetings to talk with people. This past week, we've had our third meeting with the sheriff's office, working on security measures for the early vote as well as election day. Into this meeting, we've expanded. We've brought in county employees from the Emergency Management Center, who utilize them on election day as our command center, but also working with them now on that's how we found out that they have those Marks radios that we can borrow and other things. And they're real good on reaching out to other entities to get them on board. And so in previous elections, we've had at our command center, we always have something from the sheriff's office, emergency management, our staff's in there. A lot of people on call. Being the presidential, we're actually physically bringing some folks into the room. And so emergency management is starting to reach out to them now to make sure it's on their calendar to do that. So it's good to have them, and they deal a lot with unexpected stuff. As well, we've also now have brought one of Director Dever's employees from Public Works into the mix. Person who's working lead on a lot of the parking lots. Looks like we're gonna have all the parking lots that we want. We just signed, an agreement with the former Bryan and Stratton, which was kind of one of the pieces that a lot of other things were built upon, and so they did commit. No one, unfortunately for them, fortunately for us, was ready to buy the building at this point in time, but I hope he sells it the day after the election. And so that leads us to have further discussions with Cleveland School.
But if he doesn't sell, I mean, if he does sell it, whatever we sign is gonna be, is assignable to, I mean, they can't void our obligation. We keep the obligation to our.
It'd be subject to our rights to the property.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Takes it down.
Yeah.
They can't, terminate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just make sure.
Yeah, so Mark,
Perfect.
was instrumental in getting that to make sure that we're protected.
Good.
So, so they're part of that meeting now, so that's good. This upcoming Monday, we have an on-site meeting. We're going to Midwest Direct. Talk about, paper quantities and envelopes. We've kind of had, emails here and there, but this will be an official come together. We'll have people from the health department, from Absentee, and from early in person, because they all use ballot stock. And again, we're going to their place, and some of the employees who are newer to these processes will get a tour of the facility and see what's going on. And I want their key people to be able to put, you can do it through Zoom, but I like in person, the actual person shake hands, this is who you're gonna be dealing with type of thing. So that's,
We've done presidential elections before,
oh yeah,
but we don't wanna we don't wanna running out of ballots issue.
no, no, and
Yeah.
and and I would say the plan we put in place in March to make sure we did not have any repeats of November worked very well. And I'm ready to give credit where credit's due. Peter James put together a great spreadsheet and monitor it all throughout the day. And he'll be doing that again this time, and tying in data from poll books and all that, which is really good. We also are, fiscal office is trying to get on a meeting with the post office for us to go there. Again, have a meeting with them, make sure they understand dates, deadlines, volume. And we always then bring in Midwest into those conversations too, because that's a three-way partnership with us. And we are getting a meeting with county communications. Want to make sure that their communications department, that they support us, they put out the messages that we want, and that we just see also how can we leverage them even more so like on election day, where if God forbid something goes off the rails, I can count on them to help with press releases and all those things to support Mike West, because we're only as big as we are, and they're good for helping with us. Also trying to get to Cleveland traffic commissioner from the police department. Now knowing what we're doing with the parking lots, and want to meet with the traffic commissioner, see how they can help us with during the 30 days, officers here, cones, maybe getting a temporary crosswalk up or whatever it is and having them staff that. They were helpful in 2020. And so they do have a new traffic commissioner who we've kind of worked with before it, because he was the assistant commissioner or whatever it was. So he's kind of familiar with the operation too. So we're getting that on the books. And we also have a meeting, I think it's next week, with county IT department, just to proactively talk about volume coming to our website. How does it not crash? Do we need to get more virtual servers or whatever it is because of that? The reporting, the vote by mail label reports, the tracking by ballot stuff. Again, what can we do now proactively to make sure everything is running tip-top shape, because you will have double, triple, or more activity. And I think what we will see is a lot of people who don't live in this state is a high profile, of course, the presidential one, but that is. And so I think you're gonna see a lot of people coming to try to get information on those types of things. So those are a lot of meetings going on, and they're not meetings just for the sake of meetings. They're actually like a proactive, let's do this, let's avoid being reactive. We will have to be reactive at times, because that's just the nature of the beast, but as much as in front of us to do that. And all these people very willing, want to work with us, want to be partners. And one of those things where none of them want the blemish on their department.
Right.
So that, we'll take advantage of that and work with them.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Bellotti?
One last, did I see, something that you sent that, Progressive Field is being used as a polling location, or can you remind me? what-
Yes, Rocket Mortgage Field House.
Oh, I'm dating myself,
Yeah.
Rocket Mortgage.
No, the Gundurita, I mean, Rocket
yeah,
Mortgage
there you
Field
go.
House. And so they were a poll place previously,
Right.
and then good thing was Cavs were in the playoffs, and so they had a conflict. And so what had gone into that location was the Old Soul Church. And so now we returned back to Old Stone Church, which we like working with them. Old Stone Church has always had challenges with parking and with the beautiful new, with the Sherwin-Williams building, the parking that we did utilize, gone. So, Cavaliers reached out to us. The NBA in general is very pro voter engagement. And they had asked us last year to come back and like, no, we're not ready to do that. We're ready now. And so they have opened the doors and they're willing to work with us. We're providing them with dates for the next 2 to 3 years out of elections because there's things that they can do with the NBA, blackout dates, all those. They don't want a one and done. They want a long-term commitment, which is good. And they also provide resources as far as, you know, you can imagine a challenge. It's a gigantic building. You want to make sure you get people in the right door because it has a lot of doors and they're willing. That was something we learned last time. They're willing to put at their expense, people out on the sidewalk, you know, making sure for direction. And they don't own the parking garage that's affixed to that, but obviously they have a relationship and they've already gotten commitments that tentatively they'll be able to open it up for 3 doors parking. If not, there's that kind of street that goes between the garage and the team shop where we've had people park there before, but they're really all in to help us. And as a side note, when it comes to voter National Voter Registration Day, we're partnering with them. They helped us out before where we've done an event inside the field house, but it actually happens to be a Guardians game that day. So they're talking about that, I'm gonna call it that mall, that's in between the ball diamond and the field, doing stuff there, tents and all that. And so, really good. And then they will, pull in, but all our sports teams are great. In this regard, Cavs always take the lead on voter stuff, but they will talk to the Browns and the Guardians to get this 3-team alliance that they have and get everybody involved. And so that is real positive. You will probably see an official press release from the Cavaliers tomorrow going out announcing that, and we're really happy to be working with them.
That's good. We're grateful to the Cavs and our community partners. Any other things? Okay, I have no requests for public comment. And we have no request for executive session. No, we do have no request for executive session. So I move to adjourn the meeting. Second by Ms. Chappelle. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Have a great day.